How much extra would you be willing to pay for your takeaway coffee to help improve recycling? Here in the UK, a parliamentary committee has found that Brits throw away 2.5 billion coffee cups every year, and most of them can't be recycled because of that waterproof plastic coating inside the cardboard cup. So the committee is looking at a 25p levy, that's 34 US cents at current rates, and that means a markup of about 10% on London prices anyway. Mary Cray chairs the Environmental Audit Committee. She says consumers need to be more responsible.
What we want is to make the polluter pay, and it's not fair that at the moment the costs of dealing with litter, with coffee cup disposal, with plastic bottle disposal is met by general taxation through council tax, whether or not people are consuming these products or not.
So what about the polluter, as she put it? My colleague Philip Hampshire's been out to assess customer reaction.
I'm standing outside the Nannis Cafe, which is on the corner of Great Portland Street and New Cavendish Street, right smack in the centre of London. Around me there are a mixture of different coffee shops, some of the big names like Pret a Manger, but also some of the smaller ones. Let's go inside.
Hello my friend, good morning, how are you? You alright? Okay, want a coffee today? Okay, your nice coffee for you.
The customers are few and far between at the moment. It's the middle of the morning after the early rush as people grab their drink on the way into the office, but before the next rush at lunchtime. Nonetheless, there are still a few people about. Here along the side wall is Joe, a regular who's nursing his drink. What does he make of the idea of a 25p charge for getting coffee in a takeaway cup?
It's not a bad idea. So let me be clear, but when they must sell millions and millions of coffee cups, and they all paper, most of them, and can be recycled. So if they're recycled, I don't see why they should charge 25p. But the non-recyclable ones, if they are aware, should be charged.
Okay, my friend. Here's your nice coffee for you.
Just across the street from the Nannis Cafe is a Pret a Manger. So what do Pret a Manger customers think of this announcement?
I think it's extreme, but if it helps, then I guess okay.
To be honest with you, that's not really our problem because we got it hard enough with money and stuff and issues, and for them to overcharge us is a bit too much.
Pret a Manger's chief executive just a few days ago came out with a rather unusual announcement. He said he'd offer a 50p discount for customers who brought in a reusable cup. Is that going to encourage you to bring your own cups into work with you?
I've actually got one on my desk that I didn't bring, but that's because it's too big. Most reusable cups are actually larger than standard coffee cups in Pret.
Do you have a view on this?
I'm trying to be frugal and not buy coffee.
That may well be best for the environment and the best way to save cash.
Philip Hampshire. Well, among those lobbying for a big change in practice is the environmental charity the Hubbub Foundation, whose CEO, Trewin Restorick, shared some eye-opening statistics.
We get through about 60 billion globally a year. So a lot of people are using these things. But if you look at them closely, they've actually got a plastic lining inside the cup. And that plastic is melded onto the paper. And it's very, very difficult to separate them and expensive. So if you put it into the normal recycling bin, it actually causes a problem and isn't recycled. The recyclers will want paper. They won't want any plastic in it because that's a contaminant. So to keep the value of the paper high, they'll be extracting that. And at the moment, the vast majority, all but about 2%, will be disposed of either at landfill or they could be incinerated.
Right. Possible solutions then?
So with the existing cup, if you keep the existing cup, there are two recycling solutions. The first is you don't separate, you actually shred it and you add a resin to it and more recycled plastic, and then you can remold it into a whole variety of new products, but it's expensive. The other route is you basically put a solvent into it and extract the paper from it, and then you can use it as sort of egg cartons or sort of low-grade packaging.
So the solvent strips away that plastic coating, the paper's left.
Yeah.
What happens to the solvent plus plastic?
It's disposed of. It's not recycled. The best environmental route and the ideal is for people to reuse cups. So
to be fair, a lot of brands are already encouraging that,
yeah,
aren't they? But you have to pay.
A lot of the brands in the UK are now moving to a place where they will give you up to 50p off your coffee if you take a reusable cup in. That's only shifted behaviour by about 2%. The other way to do it is to redesign the cup entirely. And there are a lot of organisations and startup businesses looking to do that. The trouble is, if you look at the scale, if you go back to that original number, 60 billion, that's a lot of cups. And to manufacture at that scale, you need a huge investment and you need to shift the manufacturing process quite quickly. And these startup organisations, although they might have a good answer, aren't able to operate at a sufficient scale to meet the demand of the industry at the moment.
So who needs to make what kind of commitment?
Well, these are massively profitable businesses. I mean, if you think about a cup of coffee, it doesn't cost a huge amount. It costs you quite a lot more to buy it. And then what you're doing is you're taking the packaging out into the street normally, and then who pays for the disposal? It's the local authority or the public sector. It's not the industry. So there is a mismatch about who's responsible for meeting the environmental cost of this. So there's got to be a bigger pay from industry. But industry, as you know, sometimes leads a little nudge.
The stick that's now being proposed is 25p plus. Could that force people in the right direction?
What the MPs have looked at is the carrier bag charge, which has been in the UK, which is only 5p, and shifted behaviour significantly. And what the MPs are asking is, if you tax something, does that shift people's behaviour more than an incentive of an offer? I think it's great the Select Committee have raised the issue. I think it's great that they've proposed quite a radical set of policies, but I think government now needs to really think about how far they will go to shift the industry, but also to keep consumers on board.
Thanks to Trewin Restorick. He's CEO at the Hubbub Foundation. Joined us here in the Biz Matters studio.